good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is that you're watching this. Maybe good night. I thought for our second behind the scenes video this month, I would share with you 5 things that I do or don't do that might surprise you about me as a writer, specifically a poet. So let's go. So number 1 is that I don't own any poetry books, apart from my own that I have a stock to send out for Etsy, and I have a copy of each of them just in case I ever want to take photos of pages for social media, or sometimes people ask me, do you have any recommendations of any of your poems that I could read at this graduation or this christening or this funeral, and so it's easy for me to take photos. But generally I don't own poetry books, and I guess that seems strange for someone who writes poetry, because you would think I would kind of immerse myself in it. I also don't follow many poets at all on social media. I follow a couple, but it's because either we're friends or I've collaborated with them or worked with them in the past. The reason that I don't do this, I think, is because I'm really worried about accidental plagiarism. I know that ideas are ideas, you know. I'm sure so many people have written about the moon before and the oceans before and the trees before and all of that kind of thing. So many people have written about the same things in nature, and so many people have written about human nature stuff, you know, not feeling enough, or about grief or about love. So it's not that an idea can almost be taken particularly, but I worry that I'll suddenly have this line pop into my head and think, oh, that's great, I'll build a whole poem around it, and then it turns out actually it wasn't my line to write about. So it's not to say that I never read poetry and I don't love words. I really do, but I tend to not seek it out as much. If it finds me, it finds me. So yes, so I don't own any poetry books by any other authors. That doesn't mean that I don't think they're very good. When I see lots of poetry shared on social media, and I have kind of professional envy, like I wish I'd written it. But generally I don't sit and read poetry. I don't have books in the house. Number 2, which is kind of social media linked, I suppose. So we'll go with this one. I have no notifications on any social media. And that is because I don't want that level of overwhelm, really, to be quite honest. Between likes, shares, comments, messages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Pinterest, TikTok, it could become really overwhelming. So actually the only thing I have notifications on my phone are emails and messages, like WhatsApp messages, iMessages, because like I say, I just don't want that level of overwhelm, and it could become a really quite destructive cycle, actually, that if I get a notification and I go in to perhaps reply to some comments, I'll then see comments on a different post and then have to reply to them, and then I'll find messages, I'll see DMs, and then I'll want to reply to them, and then they'll say, oh, I've sent you an email, so then I'll go to my email, and then I'll see that there's notifications on another social media, so I'll go to that. And if I'm not careful, my entire existence could be lived out on a screen, on a phone, and I don't want that. I want a work-life balance. I want just balance in general between a digital life and a non-digital life. So by not having notifications, it means that I get to choose when I engage, and I have automated messages that say, if it's something urgent, then email me here, because like I say, I do have notifications set on my emails. But otherwise, yeah, it just becomes really overwhelming. You know, that sort of idea of noise. For me, noise isn't just audio. It's not just auditory, it can be visual as well. And seeing all those notifications circles on my phone would just kind of, in the end, what would happen would be that I would kind of go into like a meltdown, and I'd just step away and kind of dissociate. This allows me to keep a really good balance. So yeah, I have no notifications on any social media. Number 3, I often start at the end when I'm writing. So if you've watched any of my other behind the scenes videos, like my Breathe video or my notebooks videos, you'll know this anyway, but I often start at the end, which seems unusual, I suppose, because we don't read from the end. But I think this probably is true actually for a lot of writers, not just me, because I think when you yes, you might have an idea, but a lot of the time, even with a novel or a story, I guess there might be the idea, but a lot of the time people need to figure out where it's going before they get there. I talk about this actually in my A Storm With My Name process video, that actually knowing where it's going is a huge part. It's a huge obstacle to get over when I'm writing poetry. So, and the ideas that I often have come to me as this is the message of the story, and therefore it means that the end's kind of written because the message is there. So yeah, so often I start at the end, and I have the end, then I kind of either have to work back from there, or I have the end and then I figure out the beginning and I just have to fill the rest in like a sandwich, I suppose. Number 4, sometimes I forget what I've written, or that I've written something at all. I get messages, this probably happens at least once a month. I'll get a message and it will say, please can we use your poem, such and such title, can we print it in our community newsletter, or can we print it in our staff bulletin, or can I read it out at this event that I'm doing? And I think I don't recognise the title of that poem. And I'll have to go back and say, oh, I'm really sorry, I don't know if this is mine. Because sometimes people do mistake other people's work for mine, and I have to go and say, I don't know if this is mine. And then they'll either send a picture from the book, or they'll send me the first few lines and I'll go, oh yeah, no, that is mine. So it's not necessarily that I forget the whole poem, it's just that often I forget what title I've given it, or generally what it's about. Sometimes people will say, oh, can I use this poem about such and such? And I think, I don't think I've ever written about that. And then when they send me, a picture of it in my book, I realise that, yes, of course I have. Also, because I'm always having ideas and I'm always jotting things down, either in a notebook or on like my notes app on my phone, I will sometimes like scroll through my notes and think, oh, is there anything that's grabbing me, that's half finished, that I could, that I feel creative and inspired to finish now. And sometimes I'll find something similar with a notebook. I'll be flicking through and I'll think, oh, there'll be sort of like 4 or 5 stanzas of a poem that I've completely forgotten I started. That's always fun. That's always nice, because I feel like if I've got 5 stanzas, quite a big chunk of the work's done, and I had even forgotten that I'd done it. So that's quite nice. But yeah, it happens so often, much more often than I guess you would think, because, surely I can remember everything I've written. And it's not that it's gone completely. It's just that either the title has probably changed, or it's not one that I share a lot, so it's not one that I revisit a lot. And so for me, I've kind of forgotten that it exists for a few moments. And number 5, this one feels a bit like a confession, I'll be honest. So I haven't been through everything that I write about. And I get a lot of messages, especially when I share grief poems, that say, I'm so sorry for the, like, what you must have been through, the losses you must have endured. I shared something about family once, and someone sort of said, oh, I really assumed that, you'd lost a child because of how you can write about that. And it feels kind of like awkward to say, actually, I haven't been through everything I write about. In terms of grief, I've lost the I lost a friend when I was in my early 20s. He had a life-limiting condition, so we kind of knew that that was going to happen. Otherwise, everyone else in my life that I've lost has been, it's been the kind of natural order of stuff, I suppose. It's been great grandparents, and so yeah, whilst obviously, of course, you know, I was very close to, like particularly one of my grandparents, but I haven't experienced like immediate family loss, I suppose. I don't experience periods of mental ill health, and so I can't speak directly from experience about that either. However, I do have a qualification in it. I studied it back in 2021, I think, and I know plenty of people that have, some people very close to me, and I've always made it my aim to really listen, to not assume certain things, to just listen to what they're telling me, and I use that then to write as a way to, it's always been a way to help them. My poem Battle from my second book was really specifically written for one person in particular, and it was because I just listened to what they were saying and how they were talking, really. So yeah, I haven't been through everything that I write about. People sometimes ask me to write like requests, so particularly my second book, there are requests for bipolar, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, domestic violence, postnatal depression. I've not been through any of those things, and so it can be quite difficult to write about them. But I feel like I commit to listening to people who have been through things and just seeing everything with a very, very open mind. And if I haven't been through something, then it's not for me to put what I think into it. It's for me to listen and to build the words around those experiences. Experiences are different for all of us anyway, no matter what we're going through. Just, you know, grief looks different from person to person, from relationship to relationship anyway. So I think there's always that space for bringing your own experiences to something that we read anyway. But yeah, like I say, I almost feel like I need to apologise for writing about stuff that I haven't been through. But I think hopefully that doesn't detract from the messages and from what I'm saying anyway. So there you go. 5 things that might surprise you about me as a writer. If any of them particularly surprised you, then let me know. If some of them you thought, oh, actually, no, I just assumed that anyway, then also let me know. And if there's anything else you would like to ask me, anything else you want to know about me, about my writing, about my processes, then please feel free to ask in the comments. Bye.